So there is something that I wanted to discuss, and it concerns CERN. But one of the things I want to point out first is that there are people out there who look at your religious or theological or spiritual beliefs and completely disagree with them. They too have their own beliefs. Now, the people I'm talking about are those who follow the idea of Lucifer being the good guy, and God isn't who you think he is, and you know the rest. They want to believe in that counter-argument, and that's fine. It's not the first time that's happened. Remember the Exodus of Egypt? Moses left the group alone for a little while, and the people went right back to worshiping their deities of Egypt. And this is where we find ourselves today. Isn't it eerie how similar this time is to those days during the plagues of Egypt? And you will absolutely know it once the meteor storms begin. And we have discussed this before. CERN has chosen Shiva as their deity mascot, it seems. Well, they have. You don't walk into someone's home and see a cross with Jesus on it and assume they're Buddhist. So, why Shiva? Why this one? Well, first of all, it was a gift from India, like the Statue of Liberty was a gift from France, and we've heard that one before. Most statues are gifts of art, whether the artist is commissioned to do it or not. Oh, and by the way, this Shiva comes in many forms. But the one I want to present to you, if you are not already aware, some of you may already know that Shiva is the Celtic deity Cernunnos, or Cernunnos. Since this is about CERN, I'll go with Cernunnos. Maybe even the Greek deity Dionysus. And then there is the name that is associated with the deity's more disturbing form, the Roman Bacchus. Here's the argument that you're going to hear. That the Baphomet character is originally good in nature, and it was the Christian church's stand on monotheism that caused them to label the Baphomet anti-Christian, and it developed into something satanic. Listen, idol worship is idol worship. People shouldn't be making idols symbols of Jesus or the cross, in my opinion. And as far as I know, there is one God the Creator. And then there are his angels, including the being that is Jesus. And that's it. So if you are not worshiping the Creator, you're worshiping one of these angelic beings. And in many cases, they just happen to be demons and or fallen angels. Pan, Krampus, Cernunnos, Baphomet, Pashupati. You know, there are well over 100 names for this being. You can call it whatever you want. All roads lead back to Egypt and Babylon. This is Inanna, or Ishtar, the Mesopotamian goddess, worshipped by the Akkadians and Babylonians. Notice the horns, the pattern behind the head, the wings, the foot on the back of the lion, and the pointing of the hand. And then look at the Shiva statue at CERN. I mean, do we really have to debate whether this is the same god or not? And on that note, who is the Egyptian horn deity? The goddess Isis. She is the horned goddess, the winged goddess. If you find her stepping on the back of anything, it's usually a crocodile. Or you may find her in a kneeling position of power, like the one Biden likes to use. Sometimes holding a snake, sometimes she is the snake, or cobra. Do you see how intertwined all this stuff is? Now, in order to understand the Roman pagan god Bacchus, is to understand Dionysus and Liber. Liber meaning free. And Cernunnos and Shiva, Bacchus, he is the god of the vine, the god of wine. He is the god of libation, intoxication, drunkenness, and ecstasy. And that's his light side. He is often depicted holding grapes or a jug, sometimes a snake. In liberating his devotees from ordinary cares and inhibitions, he momentarily breaks the orders of things. When Bacchus holds sway, traditional social bonds loosen, including those of class, the family, gender relations, even the order of the state, and the mind may dishevel. The Hellenic myths relating to King Pentheus and King Lycurgus spell out the danger, a danger that went beyond the mythical in the 2nd century BCE, when the Roman Senate felt compelled to restrict the practice of Bacchic religion. Drinking wine was a form of communion with the god. By the early 2nd century BC, Bacchic rites had acquired a reputation of being drunken orgies that were breeding grounds for all forms of corruption and immorality. In 186 BC, the consuls, responding to complaints about moral and criminal offenses by Bacchic initiates, urged the Senate to restrict cult activities, the very aspect that made Bacchus appealing to some Romans. Its emotionalism made it frightening to others. When rumors spread about lewd behavior, kidnappings, forgeries, and murders by initiates, state officials felt that the activities of the cult, which appealed largely to lower classes, posed a threat to the public safety of Rome. Crippling restrictions were placed on future cult activities, but the state did not interfere with individual worship of Bacchus. An individual was free to worship the god of his or her choice, but forbidden to participate in disorderly assemblies. So, just from reading that, what other type of debauchery is this god associated with? Well, let's just say it has something to do with children. When people begin to develop these cult followings, they become established religions. Some people go left, some people go right. But reading that should give you a better idea of the motives behind what these criminals among the elites engage in. So if Bacchus is Dionysus or Liber, and if Dionysus is Cernunnos and Shiva, why did CERN pick this god to put in their yard for everyone to see? Oh, to represent the god of destruction. No, to represent the god of corruption. This kind of stuff of the ancients is making a comeback. It's unworship. So I want to show you guys something the next time you think about sending your kids to a place that monuments these gods, like Dionysus or Bacchus or Shiva. And this comes from Bruminate.com, based on the stories of an ancient historian, Titus Livius, or Livy for short. The Bacchanalia were Roman festivals of Bacchus, the Greco-Roman god of wine, freedom, intoxication, and ecstasy. And this is your typical eyes wide shut cult, very secret, and you'll see why in a moment. Livy claims the earliest version as open to women only and held on 3 days of the year in daylight, while in nearby Etruria, north of Rome, a Greek of humble origin, versed in sacrifices and soothsaying, had established a nocturnal version, added wine and feasting to the mix, and thus acquired an enthusiastic following of women and men. Livy says that Pacula Ania corrupted Rome's unofficial but morally acceptable Bacchic cult by introducing the Etruscan version, with 5 always nocturnal cult meetings a month, open to all social classes, ages, and sexes, starting with her own sons. The new celebrations and initiations featured wine-fueled violence and violent sexual promiscuity, in which the screams of the abused were drowned out by the din of drums and cymbals. Those who resisted or betrayed the cult were disposed of. Under cover of religion, priests and acolytes broke civil, moral, and religious laws with impunity. Livy also claims that while the cult held particular appeal to those of uneducated and fickle mind, such as the young plebeians, women, and men most like women, most of the city's population was involved, and even Rome's highest class was not immune. You know, sometimes it doesn't matter if these gods are real or not, or fallen angels or not. Man makes them real enough. Mankind is the one who carries out these atrocities against human beings, right? So, we have Bacchus, the depraved, Dionysus, the same deity but with more of a patron of the arts twist, Cernunnos or Cernunnos, the Celtic version, which is more closely associated with nature and the wilderness, with more attributes that could symbolize beast, especially with the horns. He always had horns, or crown with horns. And this is no doubt the anti-Christian Baphomet being that was turned into the mascot of the as above so below cult of Luciferians with their own twist. See, it doesn't matter what it is. They can take a triangle and make it evil. A triangle. Oh no, stay away from them triangles. That's the devil. As much as I talk about pyramids and triangles on this show, you guys should be experts. It's about the intent. And as you may very well know, there is power in geometric shapes and structures. I have to be honest, I can't keep track of all these deities. There's too many. Too many of them are the same being with a different name. So, look, you can walk around in big cities like New York. Maybe on an occasion you may come across marked buildings, like Freemason buildings or lodges. They are marked. And so there are buildings with the markings of Bacchus. Yeah, maybe in an old hotel. They like to put these things close to hotels for some reason. I wonder why. There's a bunch of restaurants and bars that carry the name Bacchus, warehouses, and yeah. And they usually are old buildings that they use for only God knows what. With the head of Bacchus or statue or frieze marking the location. You know, I do these types of videos to get you guys familiar with these types of markings that you may have in your own area. Sometimes there is different energy where these statues are placed, just like there is a different type of energy where Masonic lodges are placed. It is deliberate. So if we are talking about one deity with multiple identities, is CERN aware of this? I'm sure they are. Of course, they will always take the light-hearted scientific reasoning behind the statue of Shiva. Doesn't really change history. There is more to come, and of course there will be more on this and CERN. Stay tuned for that. If you haven't yet been able to, be sure to visit woodwardentertainment.com and the Woodward Entertainment store. And until next time, as always, stay awake, stay aware, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all soon.